look at square numbers. Probably come across these before. A square number is a number multiplied by itself. So if I took the number 1 and I multiply it by itself, which is 1. So we know that is 1. And then we take the next number, so if I have 2 and I multiply it by itself, then I get 4. Let's keep going. 3, if I take the number 3 and I multiply it by itself, I get 9. So these are the square numbers. We can keep going. If I take 9 multiplied by itself, we get 81. That's easy enough. So these are the basic ones, and they kind of go up to, if we do 10 times 10, 10 multiplied by itself is 100. They're kind of the ones you normally know up to. Again, you don't have to know because you can work them out. All you need to know, a square number multiplied by itself. So that's if you're saying it in English, that's what you would say as you write out this. Okay, what about an inverse operation for a square number? An inverse operation is an opposite. So if we have plus, the inverse is minus. It's the opposite. If we have multiply, the inverse operation is divide. And the inverse, when you take it over the equal sign, it means you do the opposite. Squaring is an operation. We can write it like this: 1 squared. 1 times by itself. You can write 2 squared, that's the symbol. 10 squared. That's not 10, oopsies. Getting a bit ahead of myself. Just love the zeros. So that's the way we can write it, that's what it means, and that is how you say it in English. The inverse of a squared number, of squaring, this guy, this is the square root, and this is the opposite of squaring. So if I take this symbol, the square root of 4, that is the opposite of squaring. So if we looked at our table, so 1 times 1 is 1, 1 squared, 2 squared equals 4. Aha! There's 4. So because it's the inverse, if we take this squared over there, because we want root, we get 2 equals, this turns into square root. And hang on a minute, that looks the same as that, so we know that equals 2. So you're kind of asking yourself, in this case, what multiplied by what equals 4? So for this question, in English terms, you would ask yourself, what multiplied by itself, so you'd have to have the same numbers, equals 4. Or, for example, if I had root 36, the question that I would ask myself there, in my head, non-mathematical way, would be, what multiplied by itself is equal to 36? And maybe you don't know that off your head, so let's just keep going down this line. So 3 squared equals 9, 4 squared equals 16, 5 times 5, I'll mix up the way I write it, is 25, and 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. Aha! So what times what? 6 multiplied by 6 is 36, equals 4. So the answer here is 6. These are now our cubed numbers. Okay, so cubed is kind of the next one up from squared. It's kind of just that next level. So we know squared is 2 times 2, something times times itself. Cubed is something multiplied by itself, multiplied by itself. So it's just got that extra multiplied by itself than squared. So 2, and the way we do this cubed is a little 3, is equal to 2 multiplied by itself, upper dimension multiplied by itself. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, etc. Okay, and the inverse operation for cubed would be cubed root. So the sign for that would be, you'd get your root again, but you'd put a little 3 here. So for a square root, there's kind of an invisible 2. So for example, if I had cubed root of 8, in Englishy terms, that is saying what multiplied by itself again, gives me 8. And we know that is equal to 2. You can kind of do it by trial and error. The square of 3, so that you could translate to 3 multiplied by itself, which is equal to 9. Another, they could just give you numbers like that and the symbols. So that is cubed, which is equal to something multiplied by itself, upper dimension multiplied by itself. And they could just give you the inverse operation for squaring, which is square root. So in this question you would ask yourself, it's the opposite of squared, so what multiplied by itself gives you 81? So I'm just going to, for no reason at all, try 9 multiplied by 9, which does give 81. So therefore I know that's not equal, this is just me working it out. So I know that 9 multiplied by itself equals 81, so the answer to this is 9. What are another example, just another cubed one? 5 cubed, that we know is 5 multiplied by 5, and again multiplied by 5, so that would be, this bit we know 25 multiplied by 5, 125. What about 2? So this is now applying our knowledge. We haven't seen that little 6. We know that squared has a little 2. So we know that 2 squared looks like that, and we know that 2 cubed looks like that. This one has 1 little times, and that one has 2 little times. So we're just going to use that little pattern we can see from there and keep going. So we've got 2, that'll be squared, cubed, to the 4, to the 5, to the 6. So, oh, I can't do this. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 equals 64. Okay, so that's just applying what we already knew. Go back to the square root, opposite of squared. So I'm asking myself, we just did this one earlier, what multiplied by itself gives 36? 6 squared, which equals 6 times 6 equals 36. So 6 multiplied by itself equals 36. Answer is 6. What about 5 multiplied by 10 squared? So first I'm going to deal with this squared, and I know that 10 squared equals 10 multiplied by itself, which is 100. 5 multiplied by 100, the answer is 500. Another wordy one, the square of 8. Also pause these before if you actually want to have a go. I'm kind of going through them quite quickly. So that the square of 8 is 8 multiplied by itself, which is 8, which is 64. This is a bit of a hard one, but I quite liked it when I saw it from the exam questions. Write as a power of 10. And I just quite like the phrase power of 10. It just sounds so cool and powerful. Then it has 10 okay, so power are these things here to the power of, you call them. So, write as a power of 10. So this is equal to 10. And we need a little power here. So how many times will we times 10 by itself? So we've got 10 times 10 here. So that'll be squared. Times again, cubed. Times again, to the power of 4. Times again, to the power of 5. So that would be 10 to the power of 5. I guess they could change number. It could not be 10, so you could have, they could give you that and say write as a power of 2. So it would be 2, then that would be 2 squared, 2 cubed.